Alright, history buffs and curious minds, let's talk about something a little wild. What if I told you the very map on your phone, the life-saving antibiotics in your medicine cabinet, or even the coffee you just sipped this morning, all exist because of conflicts nobody ever taught you about in school? We all know the big names: World War II, Vietnam, the American Revolution. These are history's greatest hits, right? But the real scaffolding of our modern world, the nuts and bolts that hold everything together, were actually hammered into place during wars most textbooks completely skip. Today, we're diving deep into 7 of these forgotten conflicts. And trust me, by the time we're done, you're going to look at today's headlines, and maybe even your breakfast, with a whole new level of suspicion. Get ready to have your mind blown by history's secret architects. The Crusades, 1095 to 1291. When most people hear Crusades, they picture chain mail, valiant knights, and religious fervor. And sure, there was plenty of that. But the real lasting legacy of these centuries-long expeditions? It's basically globalization 1.0. Think about it. When European armies marched towards Jerusalem, they weren't just fighting, they were encountering entirely new worlds. They came home not just with stories of holy lands, but with a serious craving for things they'd never seen before. We're talking about sugar, lemons, spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, exotic textiles, and perfumes. This wasn't just about looting anymore. It sparked the revolutionary idea that these incredible, exotic goods could be bought, traded for, and brought back home. This burgeoning demand for Eastern luxuries kickstarted an economic revolution. Italian bankers, particularly from rising city-states like Genoa and Venice, became the financial powerhouses of the era. They didn't just lend money for these massive military expeditions, they innovated. To keep track of the complex international debts and burgeoning trade routes, they essentially invented double-entry bookkeeping, a system so efficient and revolutionary, it became the bedrock of modern accounting and finance. Every balance sheet, every corporate ledger, every time you reconcile your bank statement, you're tapping into a system born from the necessity of funding medieval holy wars. But the flow wasn't just one way. While Europeans were discovering new tastes, Arabic medicine, far more advanced at the time, was flowing back into Europe. Imagine surgeons using scalpels, performing intricate cataract surgeries, developing sophisticated pharmacies. These were techniques and knowledge that gradually permeated European medical practices, laying groundwork for future scientific advancements. Cities like Venice and Genoa didn't just grow, they exploded, becoming maritime empires because they controlled the new, spice pipelines, and trade routes that linked east and west. So, the next time you sprinkle cinnamon on your oatmeal, or marvel at modern financial systems, remember that a 12th century knight's sweet tooth and an Italian banker's ledger basically paid for the supply chain and financial infrastructure we still use today. It's wild to think about, isn't it? The Battle of Dejori, 1121. Ever heard the phrase, Caucasus powder keg? It's a region infamous for its complex ethnic, religious, and geopolitical tensions. Well, you can thank a guy named King David the Builder for keeping that keg from blowing up 1,000 years earlier. In 1121, at the Battle of Dejori, this Georgian king faced a massive Seljuk Turkish army, outnumbering his forces by as much as 3-1. Instead of retreating, David pulled off a tactical masterpiece. He baited the Seljuk raiders into a narrow valley near Dejori, a natural choke point, then sprung his trap, hammering their flanks with heavy cavalry. It was a decisive, stunning victory that didn't just save Christian Georgia from being absorbed into the Seljuk Empire. It effectively froze Muslim expansion north of the Caucasus Mountains for centuries. This single battle preserved Georgia's unique Christian identity and culture, allowing it to flourish as a regional power for generations. More broadly, it left the entire Caucasus region as this incredible, vibrant patchwork of faiths and languages, a mosaic that persists to this day. Why does this matter now? Fast forward to World War II. Those very same mountain passes, those ancient choke points, became the only viable route through which Stalin could receive crucial American Lend-Lease trucks and supplies, essential for the Soviet war effort. If the Seljuks had conquered the region centuries earlier, that geopolitical landscape would have been entirely different, potentially altering the course of World War II. Even today, these ancient valleys and choke points remain strategically vital. They're not just historical footnotes, they're critical arteries for modern energy pipelines, transporting oil and gas from the Caspian Sea to global markets. The echoes of tiny Digori ripple through time, shaping everything from Cold War logistics to today's energy security debates. It's a powerful reminder that geography, and the battles fought over it, often dictate the flow of history in ways we rarely appreciate. The Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848. Picture this: California without Hollywood, Nevada without Vegas, Arizona without its vast deserts, Utah without its mountains, and even parts of Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming. Imagine all of that still part of Mexico, stretching its Pacific coast all the way to Denver. That was the potential reality before the Mexican-American War. This often overlooked conflict, while brief, drastically reshaped the map of North America. The U.S. victory culminated in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which, in one massive handshake, transferred an astonishing 500,000 square miles of territory from Mexico to the United States. This wasn't just a land deal, it was a geopolitical earthquake. This immense territorial acquisition did more than just expand America's borders, it ignited the first massive American gold rush. In a bizarre twist of fate, flakes of gold were discovered at Sutter's Mill in California just 9 days before the treaty officially ceded the land to the U.S. Overnight, sleepy mission towns like San Francisco transformed into booming, chaotic cities, drawing hundreds of thousands of fortune seekers from around the globe. This template, the sudden discovery of a valuable resource paired with a massive influx of migration and entrepreneurial spirit, became the literal playbook for Silicon Valley a century later. The drive, the innovation, the rapid growth, it all has roots in that mid-19th century gold fever. But this expansion came at a profound human cost. The new, arbitrarily drawn border sliced through indigenous lands, splitting ancient tribes like the Tohono O'odham in two. Imagine your ancestral home, your family, your community, suddenly divided by an invisible line enforced by two different governments. Their descendants still deal with this division every single day, commuting between Arizona ranch lands and Mexican clinics, navigating a border that remains a complex, often contentious, barrier. The Mexican-American War wasn't just about land, it was about destiny, resources, and the creation of a border that continues to define identities, economies, and political debates in North America. It set the stage for much of the cultural blending and tension we see along the US-Mexico border today. The Soviet-Afghan War, 1979 to 1989. When the Soviet Union rolled tanks into Afghanistan in 1979, Moscow expected a swift, 3-week, police action to prop up a friendly communist regime. What they got instead was their own brutal, decade-long Vietnam, complete with national bankruptcy and a humiliating retreat. This Cold War proxy conflict, often relegated to the footnotes of history, had absolutely seismic global consequences that we're still living with today. The Soviets found themselves bogged down in a brutal guerrilla war against the Mujahideen, Afghan rebels who, crucially, were backed by the CIA and its allies. To arm these resistance fighters, the CIA orchestrated a massive, covert operation. They bought Egyptian Kalashnikovs, funneled them through Pakistan, and, most critically, shipped advanced Stinger missiles. These portable, shoulder-fired anti-aircraft weapons were a game-changer, turning Soviet Mi-24 helicopter gunships, once the terror of the Afghan skies, into falling scrap metal. The war bled the USSR dry, costing them an estimated 15,000 lives and a staggering 15% of their GDP. This economic and human drain wasn't just a setback. It greased the skids for the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union itself in 1991, fundamentally reshaping the global geopolitical order. But the ripple effects didn't stop there. Among the thousands of foreign volunteers who flocked to Afghanistan to fight against the Soviets was a young Saudi named Osama bin Laden. It was in the crucible of this war that he learned invaluable lessons about asymmetric warfare, how patience, religious fervor, and portable, relatively low-tech weaponry could be used to defeat a superpower. The consequences of that learning curve are tragically familiar: 9/11, the subsequent global war on terror, and the ubiquitous, often frustrating, airport security lines you still stand in today. The Soviet-Afghan War wasn't just a regional conflict. It was a geopolitical earthquake that directly contributed to the end of the Cold War and the beginning of a new era of global terrorism. The Sudanese Civil Wars, 1955 to 2005. When we talk about forgotten wars, the Sudanese Civil Wars are a prime example. These weren't just Africa's longest conflicts, spanning over 5 decades. They were brutal, complex struggles that resulted in millions of deaths and displaced persons. But beneath the surface, these wars weren't just about battlefields. They were fundamentally about oil wells, ethnic identity, and religious divides. Following Sudan's independence from Anglo-Egyptian rule, deep-seated tensions erupted between the predominantly Arab Muslim north, centered in Khartoum, and the largely Christian and animist south. When the northern government attempted to impose Sharia law across the entire country, fighting broke out, escalating into a protracted, devastating conflict. For decades, the world largely ignored the escalating humanitarian crisis. Then, a game-changer, Chevron discovered massive crude oil reserves in the south. Suddenly, the world cared. International attention, once scant, now focused intensely on Sudan, transforming the conflict from a regional tragedy into a global strategic concern. Oil became both a curse and a potential catalyst for peace. The pressure mounted, leading to a comprehensive peace agreement in 2005. This landmark deal ultimately paved the way for the South to vote for independence, leading to the creation of the Republic of South Sudan in 2011, the world's newest nation. This new nation, however, immediately became a geopolitical chessboard. China, already Sudan's biggest customer for its oil, found itself with a new, strategically important partner in South Sudan, further tilting global energy strategy. Meanwhile, the complex politics of oil pipelines and resource allocation continue to fuel internal conflicts and regional instability. Today, the money from your gas receipt could, depending on the intricate web of global oil markets and regional politics, indirectly fund infrastructure projects in Juba, South Sudan's capital, or, tragically, contribute to the funding of militias in places like Darfur. This forgotten war, with its roots in colonial legacies and its branches reaching into global energy markets, is visible every time you commute. It's a stark reminder of how interconnected our world truly is. The Russian Civil War, 1917 to 1923. Imagine the US Civil War, but exponentially more chaotic, spanning 11 time zones, and featuring televised executions, chemical weapons, and a dizzying array of factions. That's a glimpse into the brutal, complex landscape of the Russian Civil War. Following the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, Russia plunged into a maelstrom. It was Bolsheviks versus whites, anti-communists, monarchists versus anarchists, nationalists versus socialists, all while foreign armies from a dozen different countries intervened. The nation was torn apart, ravaged by famine, terror, and relentless violence. The ultimate victory of the Bolsheviks, led by Lenin and later Stalin, wasn't just a win in a civil conflict. It was the birth pangs of the Soviet Union. This outcome profoundly influenced the entire 20th century. It cemented the first state dedicated to communist ideology, leading to its export around the globe and shaping countless conflicts, from the Cold War to proxy wars in Asia and Africa. It also birthed the concept of the planned economy, a centralized system that would compete with capitalist models for decades. But here's a truly fascinating side product of this brutal war: the world's first state-run research and development labs, driven by urgent military necessity. Lenin's scientists, desperate to counter the White Army's biplanes, pioneered the development of modern air defense radar technology. Later, Stalin's engineers scaled up that tech, famously using it to shoot down U-2 spy planes during the Cold War. Every time a commercial flight shows up on your airline app, its position precisely tracked and displayed. You're benefiting from technology that got its initial, urgent push during the desperate struggle of the Russian Civil War. It's a testament to how even the most horrific conflicts can inadvertently accelerate technological progress, pushing radar from experimental labs into the sophisticated systems that guide our daily air travel. The Sudanese-Egyptian War of 1820 to 1821. Wait, another Sudan war? Yes, and this one, despite its obscurity, literally rewrote the book on modern medicine and public health. In the early 19th century, Muhammad Ali, the ambitious ruler of Egypt, launched a major military campaign south into Sudan. His primary motivations were pragmatic. He wanted control over valuable trade routes, access to ivory, and tragically, a steady supply of enslaved people to build his modern army. The Sudanese resistance, however, proved formidable, leading to long, arduous campaigns along the scorching Nile. Accompanying these armies was an extraordinary figure, Antoine Barthélemy Clot, a French surgeon and chemist in Muhammad Ali's service. As his European medical supplies dwindled in the harsh African environment, Clot was forced to innovate. He began experimenting with local plants and traditional remedies, a groundbreaking approach for a European physician at the time. His relentless research led him to isolate an alkaloid that would become the prototype for quinine substitutes. This discovery was revolutionary, cutting malaria deaths in half across Muhammad Ali's vast empire, protecting soldiers and civilians alike from one of the deadliest diseases of the era. Clot's impact didn't stop there. A decade later, when devastating cholera pandemics swept across Europe, Clot's innovative field hospitals in Cairo, designed for mass casualties and public health interventions, became the global model for disease control. His work directly inspired the creation of the first international public health boards, laying the groundwork for organizations like the World Health Organization. So, the next time you get a travel vaccine or benefit from public health advisories, remember that its lineage traces directly back to the desperate, innovative medical work done during Muhammad Ali's brutal campaign in Sudan. It's a powerful, if grim, reminder of how unforeseen scientific breakthroughs can emerge from the darkest corners of human conflict. So, are you learning things school completely skipped over? If your mind is buzzing with these hidden histories, then do yourself a favor. Tap that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next deep dive into the past. And seriously, drop a comment below. Which of these forgotten wars blew your mind today? I love hearing your thoughts. Borders on a map, the medicine that saves lives, the energy pipelines that fuel our world, even the cinnamon on your toast. None of these took the shape we know because of the wars history remembers. They exist, in large part, because of the wars we collectively forgot. It's a strange, humbling thought, isn't it? That the most profound changes often come from the shadows, from conflicts that didn't make the highlight reel. Next time you open a map app, or pop an antibiotic, or even just enjoy a spiced latte, take a moment. Remember, history's hidden gears keep turning, quietly forging tomorrow, right under our noses. Keep your eyes open, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.